It was a regular afternoon, or so it seemed. Keanu Reeves, the actor known for his humble demeanor and mysterious aura, was quietly enjoying his meal in a secluded corner of a McDonald's. His eyes, usually so intense on screen, were soft as he gazed out the window, lost in his own thoughts. The world, outside and in, was a blur, until it wasn't. In a bustling fast food joint, filled with the clatter of trays and children's laughter, a moment was unfolding that would shake even the most grounded of souls. A 5-year-old boy, seemingly unnoticed in the crowd, was about to change everything. No one could have predicted what would happen next. The little boy, with his innocent eyes and unassuming presence, approached Keanu, whispering something so eerie, so unnerving, that the actor's face drained of color. The transformation was instant. The calm, collected Keanu Reeves, who had faced enemies and explosions on screen without breaking a sweat, was now pale and trembling, a stark contrast to his usual composure. As the child's words echoed in his ears, Keanu froze. The boy was too young to have any concept of the weight his words carried. But Keanu, he understood. He felt the gravity of it. His heart raced, his breathing shallow, and the words that followed sent a chill down his spine. Without hesitation, Keanu grabbed his phone, dialing 911 in a frenzy, all while trying to keep his composure. What had the boy said? What could possibly cause a man who had stared down some of the most terrifying situations in Hollywood blockbusters to react this way? In the next few minutes, Keanu would find himself embroiled in a mystery unlike anything he had ever encountered before, one that no script could have prepared him for. And the world would soon know that there are some things even Keanu Reeves can't prepare for. Keanu had always been a man of few words, preferring to live his life out of the spotlight when not acting. But on this day, at this McDonald's, he was once again thrust into the limelight, albeit in a way that he could never have predicted. He had been in this exact type of place hundreds of times before, the simple, mundane spots where normal people ate, laughed, and shared moments without ever realizing that celebrities like him were in their midst. But today, everything would change. Sitting at his booth, Keanu was lost in a peaceful quiet, something he seldom found in his chaotic life. His cheeseburger sat untouched, and his drink, half full, rested next to him. Outside, the sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows over the parking lot, yet Keanu's thoughts were elsewhere. He wasn't thinking of his next movie, nor of his busy schedule. He was just sitting. And then, it happened. A tiny hand tugged at his sleeve. Keanu's gaze shifted downward, meeting the eyes of a small boy, no older than 5. The boy's face was angelic, his messy hair framing his round face like a halo. In the child's eyes, there was something unsettling. It wasn't malice, but something far deeper, something older than his years. The boy wasn't staring at Keanu with the innocent curiosity one might expect. Instead, he was looking at him as though he had seen something that Keanu himself hadn't yet realized. "Are you scared?" the boy whispered, his voice soft but laden with a weight that felt too heavy for his small frame. Keanu blinked, caught off guard by the question. He wasn't accustomed to being spoken to by children, especially ones that looked at him with such intensity. But his usual calm kicked in. With a faint, polite smile, he leaned down, looking the child in the eyes. "Scared of what, little one?" Keanu asked gently, though inside, a chill began to creep up his spine. The boy didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a step back, looking around as though making sure no one was watching. And then, in a voice that was almost a whisper, he spoke words that would forever be etched into Keanu's mind. "You're in danger. The people after you are closer than you think." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Keanu felt a coldness wash over him. It was as if the boy's words had peeled back the layers of reality itself. This wasn't a random child talking to him. There was purpose behind those words. And they felt real. Keanu's pulse quickened. He had been in his fair share of dangerous situations in movies, facing near-death scenarios and villains who never seemed to stay dead. But this was different. This wasn't scripted. The words carried an eerie truth, a raw, unfiltered reality that sent a shiver down his spine. Who are you?" Keanu asked, his voice barely above a whisper now, his eyes never leaving the boy's face. The child didn't respond immediately. Instead, he smiled softly, a sad, knowing smile, and whispered something even more chilling. "They've been watching you for a long time. You just haven't noticed. But you will." A wave of nausea swept over Keanu, and for the first time in years, he felt an undeniable fear creep into his chest. He knew he had to stay calm, had to handle this situation with the grace he was known for. But inside, something was shifting. Something was wrong. Keanu stood quickly, his mind racing. His instincts kicked in. The boy was too knowing, too perceptive. He wasn't a regular child, not in the way Keanu had thought. There was something else to him, something that cut deeper than just simple intuition. Without a word, Keanu pulled out his phone. He dialed 911, his hands trembling as he tried to keep his composure. The boy watched him intently, his gaze unwavering, as though expecting this reaction. 911, what's your emergency? The operator's voice crackled through the phone, but Keanu could barely hear her. His heart was pounding too loudly in his chest. I'm at McDonald's on the corner of Sunset and Vine. There's a child here. He said something to me, something about danger. I don't know how to explain it, but I think... Keanu stopped, the words catching in his throat. The operator's voice was growing distant as his mind tried to process everything. The boy, still standing there, took a few steps backward, his small hand brushing against Keanu's arm as if to assure him that he was making the right choice. There was something oddly comforting about the boy's presence, yet Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that whatever this child knew, it was only the beginning. The operator on the phone urged Keanu to stay where he was, to wait for the authorities, but Keanu wasn't sure he could. Something felt terribly wrong, like a storm on the horizon. The boy's words had dug into him like daggers, and as much as he wanted to dismiss them, Keanu knew that something had shifted. As he hung up the phone, his eyes met the boy's one last time. The child gave him a slow, deliberate smile, as if saying goodbye. And then, just like that, he was gone. Vanished into the crowd, leaving Keanu standing alone in the bustling McDonald's. The authorities arrived within minutes, their sirens echoing in the distance. But when they arrived, the boy was nowhere to be found. The security cameras were checked, but no footage showed him entering or leaving the restaurant. Keanu, still trembling, sat back down at his table. His heart was racing, but now, more than ever, he felt like the boy's warning had only scratched the surface of something far darker than he could have imagined. What had the boy known? And why had he come to Keanu? As the sun set outside the restaurant, the question swirled in Keanu's mind, unanswered. The boy's chilling words lingered in the air, a reminder that even in the most ordinary moments, danger could be closer than we ever realize. The tension in the air was thick, palpable. Keanu sat frozen, the weight of the boy's words hanging over him like a dark cloud. He glanced around the McDonald's, his eyes darting between the customers who were oblivious to the moment of panic unfolding just feet away from them. But Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. The boy had vanished, but his warning lingered, echoing in Keanu's mind. Minutes passed, each one feeling like an eternity. Keanu tried to steady his breathing, his hands still shaking as he reached for his drink. The ice clinked against the glass, a small sound in the otherwise silent space. But that silence was broken the moment the door to McDonald's swung open with a jarring creak. Two men entered. At first, Keanu didn't think much of it. They looked like any other two customers, dressed in casual clothes, a little too casual for a place like this. But there was something off about them, something that felt invasive, as if they didn't belong. Keanu's instincts flared. His eyes tracked them as they made their way to the counter, their presence too deliberate, too exact. It was in the way they scanned the room, as if they were searching for something, or someone. Keanu felt his pulse quicken again. He couldn't put his finger on it, but everything in him screamed that they were connected to the boy's warning. The unease that had been building inside him only intensified. One of the men, a tall figure with dark sunglasses, turned sharply and locked eyes with Keanu. It was a fleeting moment, just a glance, but in that split second, Keanu felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The man didn't look away. Instead, his lips curled into a small, knowing smile, the kind that seemed to say, "I see you." Keanu swallowed hard. Suddenly, the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The boy had warned him about these men. They weren't just strangers. These were the people the boy had been talking about. The ones after him. The ones who were too close for comfort. The world seemed to freeze around him. Time stretched thin. Keanu felt trapped in that moment, as though the walls of the restaurant were closing in on him. His breath grew shallow. The men hadn't moved yet, but their eyes never left him. Keanu's mind raced. He had been in tight spots before, on movie sets, facing danger and death in the most improbable ways. But this wasn't a movie. This was real. And something was about to happen. The phone call he had made to 911 rang in his ears. He had told the operator about the boy and the warning, but now, as he glanced around the room, he realized something. No one else seemed to notice the men. No one else could feel the tension that was building, creeping in like a storm. The men were still standing at the counter, still eyeing him from across the room, but their presence was growing more insistent. It was as though the world had blurred around them, leaving only Keanu and these two strangers in sharp focus. His pulse pounded in his ears. He couldn't stay here. Not with them. Not knowing what was coming next. His mind was clouded with thoughts, but one thing was crystal clear: he needed to get out of there. Keanu pushed himself out of the booth, his legs unsteady as he rose to his feet. The men watched him, their smiles widening ever so slightly as if they were expecting him to act. Keanu moved toward the door, his heart hammering against his ribcage. He was almost there when a voice rang out, cold and sharp, breaking the tense silence that had fallen over the restaurant. Keanu. It was a voice he didn't recognize, but it sent a jolt through him. It came from behind him, from the direction of the counter. Keanu turned slowly, his eyes locking on the man who had spoken. The second figure, the one who had remained silent up until now, was staring at him with an intensity that sent a chill crawling up his spine. The man took a step forward, his movements deliberate, almost predatory. "We've been waiting for you," he said, his voice low and menacing. Keanu's heart skipped a beat. The words hit him with the force of a punch to the gut. They weren't just looking for him, they had been tracking him, following him, waiting for this moment. A wave of panic surged within him, but Keanu fought to keep it in check. He couldn't let fear control him now. Not when he was so close to breaking free. His mind scrambled for a solution, his training kicking in as he weighed his options. The door was just a few steps away, but it felt like miles. Without thinking, Keanu bolted. His legs carried him forward, the sound of his footsteps thundering in the empty space as he rushed for the exit. But just as his hand gripped the door handle, he felt a sharp tug at his shoulder. One of the men had moved faster than he expected, blocking his path. "Not so fast," the man said, his grip tightening around Keanu's arm. The tension that had been building reached a breaking point. Keanu spun around, using every ounce of his strength to break free from the man's hold. The force of the movement sent the man stumbling back, and in that moment, Keanu saw his chance. He lunged forward, pushing through the door and into the chaos of the world outside. He didn't look back. He couldn't. His heart raced as he ran, knowing they were right behind him, knowing the danger was far from over. But in that instant, he remembered the boy's final words: "You will see them." Keanu had seen them. He had seen the truth of the threat. And now, the chase had only just begun. He didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but one thing was clear: they were coming for him. And this was no longer just a warning. It was a fight for survival. The conclusion of the story leaves Keanu Reeves, and the reader, with a profound sense of urgency and awakening. The encounter with the mysterious boy and the subsequent confrontation with the two men serve as a catalyst for Keanu to recognize the hidden dangers lurking in his life, dangers he had been oblivious to until now. The boy's cryptic warning, "You're in danger. The people after you are closer than you think," acts as a wake-up call, not just for Keanu, but for anyone reading the story. It's a reminder that life is unpredictable, and sometimes, the most ordinary moments can suddenly turn into life-altering events. Keanu's reaction, calling 911, confronting the men, and ultimately fleeing for his life, demonstrates the importance of trusting one's instincts and taking immediate action when faced with a threat. His courage in the face of fear, his quick thinking, and his determination to survive are inspiring. The story leaves us with a sense of empowerment, urging us to be vigilant, to trust our intuition, and to act decisively when necessary. The boy's final words, "You will see them," linger as a haunting yet motivating message. They suggest that awareness is the first step toward overcoming any challenge. Keanu's journey from a state of unawareness to one of heightened alertness mirrors the journey we all must take in our own lives. We are encouraged to open our eyes to the realities around us, to recognize the signs of danger, and to be prepared to face them head-on. Moreover, the story subtly conveys the importance of good intentions and the power of human connection. The boy, though mysterious, seems to have approached Keanu with a purpose: to warn him, to protect him. This act of kindness, even from an unexpected source, reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. There are people, sometimes strangers, who may come into our lives at the right moment to guide us or offer help. It's a call to be that person for others, to act with compassion and courage, even when it's difficult. In the end, Keanu's story is not just one of survival, but of awakening. It's a reminder that life is fragile, and every moment counts. The tension and fear he experiences are balanced by the underlying message of hope and resilience. The story encourages us to live with intention, to be aware of our surroundings, and to act with purpose. It leaves the reader with a sense of motivation, to face challenges head-on, to trust in our ability to overcome adversity, and to always be ready to take action when the moment calls for it. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the story serves as a powerful reminder that we have the strength within us to navigate through the darkness. It's a call to awaken, to be present, and to live with courage and determination. The final image of Keanu running into the unknown, ready to face whatever comes next, is a metaphor for life itself, a journey filled with uncertainty, but also with the potential for growth, resilience, and triumph.